the existence of open universities and all, perspective to the education has changed totally. What is your opinion on this aspect?
You mean the open university system
Yeah.
and its contribution?
Yes.
See, open universities came into existence at a particular point in time. Traditionally, we have the impression that education can be offered only in the classrooms, only through campus-based institutions like colleges, universities and all. And that has been there for a number of centuries and millennia. But with the advancement in communication means, technology and greater mobility of people, then certain things came to the notice of educational providers when they thought that you can move away from the campuses. In other words, you don't have to have four walls of a classroom to offer education. And the history of open education itself is very interesting. Originally, it started with Isaac Pitman, who was a teacher who was teaching shorthand to his students. He tried the postal mode of education by just sticking a penny post and sending the lessons to the shorthand learning students. Then gradually it became so popular, then other institutions, educational institutions also came into this scenario. Then sometime in the later part of the 19th century, London University started offering correspondence education to those people who could not go to the regular colleges. And then because of the two world wars and a number of social upheavals, there were groups of people, soldiers, refugees who needed education, and they had to get some kind of education which was not available in institutions like the colleges and universities. Correspondence mode of education became the real alternative. And in Russia, after the 1917 revolution, there was a greater move, initiative taken by the state itself to enhance the accessibility of education to the masses. So they brought in different types of technologies like radio and eventually television. It was working very well. After that, in 1969, when the Labour Party came to power in Britain, the first open university in the world was established in 1969. This open university even now is looked at as the Mecca for all the open universities in a number of countries. They experimented very successfully with a new type of learning materials in print, and then bringing in BBC radio and the BBC television as effective agencies to broadcast lessons.
To communicate the students.
To communicate with the students.
Okay.
And it became an instant success. Inspired by the success of the Open University in UK, then number of other open universities were established all over the world. In 1974, the German Open University came into existence. In the same year, Pakistan started its own open university, Allama Iqbal Open University. And in India, a working group under the chairmanship of G. Parthasarathi submitted a report to start a national open university in Delhi. But it took quite some time till the first open university was started in Andhra Pradesh in 1982, when the film star turned politician N.T. Ramarao became the chief minister. And Professor Ram Reddy was the first vice chancellor of that university. And in 1985, after passing an act of parliament, Indira Gandhi National Open University was established. Professor Reddy was the first vice chancellor of Indira Gandhi National Open University as well. As of today, we have 10 state open universities, 1 national open university, and more than 90 correspondence or distance education institutes located in campus-based universities throughout India. And you also have a number of IITs, medical centers, engineering colleges, which also offer distance open learning programs. So that way it has caught up with the trend, and their contribution is very significant. Now at least about 20% of the enrollment at the higher education level, the distance education institutions are catering for. So that is the scenario. The other important contribution is to break the rigidities of the classroom based, campus based education. For example, you can just imagine what will be the composition of a class like say first year BA or even MA. You have comparable age group, maybe in the 20s, and they come to the class, stay in the hostels or they are day scholars, the same set of syllabus, same set of assignments or questions if there is any provision for it, and then they move on, then they go for higher studies. In the open university system, this kind of temporal and spatial restriction is broken. You can remain wherever you are and still you can pursue your education. For that, specific arrangements have to be made. The age factor, gender factor, all these get really balanced in some way. At least the opportunities are provided for. You know, the traditional society like ours, even the most brilliant girl after getting married, she may not be allowed to continue her studies.
Yes.
Or if for some reason a brilliant student could not go to the college and ends up with some kind of job at a low level, that student will not be allowed to go for further studies in the normal course. Here is a provision where age, gender and place of living and work, these things do not really become barriers.
Then what about quality of education?
Well, that is also a very
in college
and
classrooms there is a
question.
teacher to
Yes,
guide you,
that's
and
right. That's right. Well, in a classroom or in a college or university, you have the teachers to help the students. But what is the performance rate? If you look at the performance rate, I think hardly 40 to 50% they pass out. The rest, either they don't complete or they become dropouts. Now, that doesn't really guarantee 100% success. And even if you have high pass rate, how many of them really become first class holders, degree holders? Very few. Now, if you take that as a norm, in distance open learning, what determines ultimately the quality is the kind of content that you provide, and the way the students master the content, and the way they use the content in their own life or work experiences. If you look at the experiences, the best of the distance teaching institutions, they look for anywhere between 30 to 40% success rate, because the clientele are very different. And here you also give lot of time. There is a lot of flexibility. A degree course which you have to complete in 3 years, here you can complete in 8 years or 5 years, depending on the level. Now this flexibility.
then understanding of learning is also changing.
Yeah, because here most of them are adult learners, and they know what they really want.
Okay.
And with minimum interference, let me put it that way, minimum interference from the teacher, they can learn on their own. So it becomes more of a self-directed learning, self-learning rather than spoon feeding.
Okay.
And whatever is learnt on their own, I think the students master the content much better than what they learn only to vomit or only to reproduce in an examination. After writing the examination, they may forget everything.
Yes.
Here is a situation where you can relate what you read and what you learn with your own life experience. I think that will contribute to the quality. Quality as such, I mean, there are studies available.
Yes.
Quality doesn't differ much In certain cases, quality is found to be much better in this scenario, but that does not, however, exclude the possibility that we may neglect quality if we do not have proper arrangements. Given the proper arrangements, quality can be assured as effectively as it can be in a campus based university setup or college setup.